A young woman is murdered by a predator, but because the police cannot find solid evidence, the real killer walks free. Her boyfriend is shattered by grief. Years later, he becomes a prosecutor, a man who is supposed to hold the hammer of justice. Then, more than 20 years after the crime, he meets the man who killed the woman he loved. But by now, the statute of limitations has already expired. So the question is simple: can he still make the killer pay? This is Killing for the Prosecution, a story about justice, obsession, and the moment a prosecutor crosses the line he was sworn to protect. Keiichiro Okino is a young legal professional who has just entered the criminal division. Because of his excellent performance in school and his strong sense of justice, he is assigned to work under Takeshi Mogami. Mogami is not only Okino's direct superior, he was also once his teacher. Since his student days, Okino has admired him deeply. Back then, Mogami once told the class that a prosecutor who becomes obsessed with his own version of justice will eventually become a criminal. Okino has always treated those words as a personal motto. Mogami also remembers this outstanding student. To test Okino's ability, he arranges for him to question a crime boss named Asami. Asami is a witness in a criminal case. If Okino can get useful testimony from him, it will help the investigation move forward. Okino is confident in his skills, but a crime boss is not an ordinary witness. Instead of getting information out of Asami, Okino is mocked and provoked. Even his partner, Saho Tachibana, is verbally harassed. Frustrated, Okino goes to Mogami for advice. Mogami simply tells him to let the witness go if he cannot get anything useful. There is more than one witness. There is no need to waste time on one person. He also reminds Okino that during future interrogations, he must learn when to stop wasting time. And when criminals invent stories to escape punishment, a prosecutor must have the conviction to dig out the truth. Mogami is known as one of the strongest prosecutors in the criminal division. His background is anything but simple. He has connections in both the legal world and the underworld. Asami, the crime boss Okino just questioned, is actually an old acquaintance of Mogami's. Their elders were once comrades in the military. After Mogami's grandfather retired, he became a writer, and Asami became a loyal reader of his work. Privately, Asami and Mogami often meet and talk about novels. Around this time, Mogami attends a dinner at a high-end restaurant with friends. There, he receives a phone call from a politician. The two have known each other for years. Recently, the politician has been caught in a corruption scandal, so Mogami assumes he may be asking for help. But when they meet, the politician acts strangely calm. Instead of talking about his own situation, he brings up the past. When they were students, they had a mutual friend named Yuki. Yuki was the daughter of their dormitory manager. She was sweet, cheerful, and full of life, like a little sun shining over their youth. Mogami and Yuki slowly developed feelings for each other. Then tragedy came without warning. Yuki was murdered, and the killer was never punished. Even though the statute of limitations has long passed, Yuki's death remains the wound Mogami can never heal. Part of the reason he became a prosecutor was that he wanted to use his own power to seek justice for her. One morning, the criminal division receives a new case. An elderly couple has been murdered in their home. The initial investigation shows that the couple was wealthy and often lent money to others. There are no signs of a struggle, so the prosecutors believe the killer may have been someone they knew. The murder weapon is a small utility knife. During the attack, the blade broke. Half of it remained in the elderly woman's back, while the other half was taken away by the killer. Investigators also find a safe in the couple's home, filled with loan documents. But there are no fingerprints on the safe, and because of the special paper used for the notes, the documents do not preserve fingerprints either. Even though there is little physical evidence, the team can still use the names on the loan records to narrow down who had the time and motive. Mogami does not treat the case as anything unusual at first. He gives it to Okino, so the young prosecutor can adjust to the pace of real work. Soon, Okino prepares a case report. Based on the names in the loan records, there are 5 people without an alibi. Mogami takes the report and looks through it. Then he sees one name, Shigeo Matsukura. His face immediately turns serious. More than 20 years ago, Matsukura was suspected of killing Yuki. At the time, everyone was nearly certain he was the murderer. But the police could not secure decisive evidence. They questioned him repeatedly, but they could never convict him. In the end, they had no choice but to let him go. Now Matsukura's name appears again. To Mogami, this cannot be a coincidence. Matsukura's past is even darker than that. Decades earlier, an entire family was attacked. The tragedy began when Matsukura and his brother targeted a schoolgirl on her way home. After assaulting the girl, they followed her back to her house and killed her family. Because Matsukura was underage at the time, he avoided the full weight of punishment. His brother later killed himself, unable to bear prison. Matsukura pushed all the blame onto him and left juvenile detention after only a few years. Mogami believes that a man this vicious must be responsible for the elderly couple's murder too. This time, he will not let Matsukura escape. At the same time, Saho Tachibana arrives late with her bag. Inside, a faint light suggests she may be carrying a recording device. It turns out Saho did not come to the criminal division only to work. She is investigating corruption inside the prosecutor's office. She once exposed a major club scandal and turned it into a best-selling book. Now she has heard rumors that Mogami often meets privately with a politician, so she joins the division to gather material for her next project. For now, there is no evidence that Matsukura committed the elderly couple's murder. To control his movements, Mogami asks Asami to investigate him. They discover that Matsukura has recently been involved in petty theft, so they detain him on a theft charge and use that to obtain a search warrant for his home. During the search, Mogami secretly takes a newspaper and Matsukura's used toothbrush when no one is watching. He keeps them in reserve. Then he tells Okino to take Matsukura's statement and stresses that the interrogation must be recorded on video and audio. Mogami knows Matsukura is cunning. Okino will not easily get useful information from him, so during the interrogation, Okino stays connected to Mogami by phone. Under Mogami's guidance, he keeps provoking Matsukura with the crimes from his past. He even says Matsukura caused his own brother's death. Little by little, Matsukura's mental defenses begin to collapse. He demands that Okino turn off the video and audio recording. Then he admits that he killed Yuki years ago. He describes the crime in detail, even telling them how Yuki begged for her life. The statute of limitations has already expired, and without evidence, they can do nothing to him now. On the other end of the phone, Mogami hears every detail of how the woman he loved died. His face twists in pain, and his determination to make Matsukura face legal punishment becomes even stronger. Okino throws the photos from the elderly couple's murder in front of Matsukura and pressures him to confess to that crime too. But even after breaking down under the brutal interrogation and admitting Yuki's murder, Matsukura refuses to confess to killing the elderly couple. After work, Okino has dinner with Saho. Saho believes the investigation is heading in the wrong direction. Matsukura may have a criminal past, but that does not mean he committed this murder. And yet Mogami keeps pushing everyone toward him. Saho has already discovered that Yuki, the girl Matsukura killed years ago, was once close to Mogami. She suspects Mogami wants revenge and is trying to frame Matsukura for a crime he did not commit. To her, Mogami's behavior is a prosecutor's moral failure, but Okino does not want to doubt the teacher he admires. He refuses to take her words seriously. The detention period for the theft charge is only 20 days. As the deadline approaches, they still have no real evidence. Mogami grows increasingly desperate. Then, the case suddenly takes a turn. The police receive information that a man named Yumioka drunkenly claimed he was the real killer of the elderly couple. A drunk man's words normally mean little, but in his account, Yumioka describes exactly how the blade broke inside the victim's body. That detail was never released to the public. Only the real killer would know it. Yumioka immediately becomes a suspect. When Mogami hears this, he panics. He finally has a chance to convict Matsukura, and he cannot allow anything to ruin it. If Matsukura is not the killer in this case, then Mogami must find a way to make him the killer. After struggling with himself, Mogami withdraws a large amount of cash from the bank. Then he meets Asami again and asks for a car, a phone, and a gun. Asami warns him that this is dangerous. Why not simply pay him to have Matsukura killed? But Mogami says that is not what he wants. He does not want to kill Matsukura with his own hands. A man like Matsukura must be judged by the law. Mogami wants both his body and soul condemned by the justice system. What he does not know is that Saho has been secretly following him and sees him meet Asami. She immediately contacts Okino. At that moment, Okino is reviewing the records and notices that Yumioka had a 20-minute phone call with the elderly man before the murder. But investigators never found Yumioka's loan document. After receiving Saho's call, Okino picks her up on his motorcycle, and together they follow Mogami's trail to a love hotel. This is where Yumioka now works. Mogami calls Yumioka and tells him there is a police car outside. He says he has come to help. Only then does Yumioka realize that his drunken confession has exposed him. He tells Mogami his room number. When they meet, Yumioka asks why Mogami would help him for no reason. Mogami says he only wants Matsukura to go to prison. Helping Yumioka is just another way of helping himself. If Yumioka follows his instructions, he can avoid the police. Mogami asks whether he still has the evidence from the murder. Yumioka says he accidentally took the broken half of the blade away from the scene, and he still has it. Hearing that the blade is in Yumioka's possession, Mogami is relieved. He tells Yumioka to bring the evidence and leave with him immediately. He will destroy it and arrange for Yumioka to hide in a villa outside the city until things calm down. Mogami's professional skill is so strong that even while building a lie, he leaves almost no gaps. Yumioka soon trusts him. But then Yumioka says the other half of the blade is not with him. It is at his home. Mogami immediately tells him to take him there. Saho and Okino have taken the room next door and are trying to listen in, but the sound is unclear. By the time they hear movement and rush out, Mogami has already taken Yumioka away. After obtaining the remaining half of the blade, Mogami drives the black car he got from Asami to a secluded forest. He stops, turns on the headlights, and tells Yumioka to get out. He says if Yumioka walks 50 meters ahead, he will see a villa. All he has to do is hide there until the situation passes. Yumioka believes he has been saved. He walks into the dark forest with no guard up. Behind him, Mogami raises the gun. The gun he bought from Asami was never meant for Matsukura. It was meant for Yumioka. If Mogami wants to pin the elderly couple's murder on Matsukura, the safest way is to make the real killer disappear forever. But this is Mogami's first time firing a gun. He hits Yumioka, but not in a fatal spot. Hearing Yumioka's painful cries, Mogami realizes there is no turning back. He fires several more shots until Yumioka is dead. Then he buries the body in a pit he prepared in advance. By the time it is over, dawn is breaking. Mogami changes into clean clothes and calmly returns to work at the criminal division. The office is already in chaos because everyone has just learned that Yumioka is missing. Saho, who knows what she saw, confronts Mogami directly. She says Yumioka's disappearance is too convenient. The police were about to arrest him, and suddenly he vanishes. She also tried to contact Mogami the night before, but he was unreachable, and she had seen him meet with a crime boss. Could Mogami have secretly done something to help frame Matsukura? Facing this attack, Mogami does not panic. Instead, he turns the accusation back on her. He says he has known for some time that Saho was following him. He knows she is a writer looking for corruption material, and that she came into the criminal division for her own book. A person who sneaks into a government office for personal gain, he says, is far more likely to disrupt the investigation. As for meeting Asami, Mogami claims it was for his daughter. She recently started working part-time at a hotel and was being harassed by gang members, so he asked Asami for help. Saho is left speechless. She knows she cannot beat Mogami at this game. That same day, she submits her resignation. The others are also influenced by Mogami and begin blaming her. They believe that if she had not acted rashly and taken Okino to the Love Hotel, Yumioka might not have been alerted. But Okino knows Saho's suspicion makes sense. Then, new evidence appears. Police find the missing half of the blade by a river. It is wrapped in a newspaper. There are no fingerprints on the blade, but Matsukura's DNA is detected. This evidence is exactly what Mogami created. The toothbrush and newspaper he secretly took from Matsukura's home have now served their purpose. With this physical evidence, Matsukura can be charged. Yumioka's disappearance no longer matters as much. Okino is deeply unhappy with the result. He knows Matsukura is a terrible man, but he does not believe he killed the elderly couple. If Matsukura were truly the killer, why would he clean away his fingerprints but leave DNA behind? Mogami's fake evidence is not perfect, but it is difficult to expose. When Okino voices his doubts, Mogami feels guilty, but he hides it behind righteous anger. He says Okino is obsessing over tiny details. If prosecutors question every small inconsistency, then all physical evidence would lose meaning. He scolds Okino for being childish and says he is not fit to be a proper prosecutor. But Okino fires back. The one who is unfit to be a prosecutor is Mogami, who has forgotten why he entered the criminal division and now thinks only of revenge. Mogami once said that a prosecutor obsessed with his own justice would become a criminal. He said it to warn his students, but he never imagined that one day those words would come true in himself. Okino is completely disappointed in Mogami. He believes the workplace has been corrupted by power and personal desire. He no longer has a reason to stay in the criminal division, so he submits his resignation. Matsukura is later sentenced to death, but just days before the execution, a witness suddenly appears. This person claims to have seen Yumioka kill the elderly couple. The testimony matches the evidence and investigation details. With the real killer exposed, Matsukura is released. Mogami breaks down. He built such a huge trap. He committed murder with his own hands. Now he is told that everything he did was useless. So Mogami goes back to Asami. This time, he wants Asami to directly end Matsukura's life. To celebrate Matsukura's release, his former defense lawyer holds a party for him. But in the crowd, Matsukura notices Okino, who came uninvited. Okino is there to apologize. He says that because he trusted Mogami too much, he pushed Matsukura too hard during the interrogation and forced him to face the past he did not want to talk about. He is sorry, but Matsukura has no intention of forgiving him. He shoves Okino aside and leaves the party alone. The joy of being free surrounds Matsukura. He jumps and laughs in the street, completely unaware that a car behind him is speeding straight toward him. Matsukura is crushed beneath the vehicle. An elderly man with white hair gets out of the driver's seat and claims he mistook the accelerator for the brake. No one would imagine that this seemingly helpless old man is connected to the underworld. Only Okino, who witnessed everything, understands that Matsukura's death was no accident. Not long after, Mogami invites Okino to his home. He says he admires Okino's ability and hopes he will reconsider his resignation. Okino says he will not return, but leaving the prosecutor's office does not mean he will stop searching for the truth. He knows Yumioka's death and Matsukura's death are both connected to Mogami, and he will do everything he can to bring true justice into the world. After Okino leaves, Mogami stands on the balcony and watches his former student walk away. Down in the garden, Okino suddenly looks up at the sky and lets out a cry full of grief and anger. Maybe he himself no longer knows where real justice can be found. For most people, police officers and prosecutors are supposed to be symbols of justice. But killing for the prosecution suggests something far more uncomfortable. Maybe perfect justice does not exist, or maybe what people call justice is only a fantasy created by those who want to believe they are righteous. Mogami is not a simple villain. He is a prosecutor, but he is also a person with grief, bias, and obsession. When he faces a case tied to his own past, he is tested by private desire and moral anger. He wants Matsukura to pay for the crime he once escaped. But to make that happen, he stains his own hands with blood. Human nature is never only good or bad. There are no people who never lie, and no people who only tell the truth. That is why justice is not a question with one perfect answer. This film leaves behind a painful question. When the law and human emotion collide, should we protect procedural justice or chase the result we believe is right? That's all for today's movie recap. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, comment, and share. I'll see you in the next one.